Hi, Sarah Furness here, and today I'm going to be sharing the secret to outstanding performance under pressure. Now, I don't know about you, but I think there's an increasingly busy narrative out there, and we are just trying to cram so much into our day. But often, actually, what happens is that we make poor decisions, we feel more stressed, and it actually results in more work. So it is really not working for us. But there is actually a very, very simple solution. And I 100% know that this works because I first discovered it when the first time I crashed a helicopter. There have been a few. Ask me about that later if you're interested. And it has saved my life many, many times. So I know this works. So please, for the next 10 minutes, turn your notifications off and give this your full attention. This might be the most important video that you watch this year. So the secret is this. It's incredibly straightforward. Stop multitasking. That's it, really. So you can probably turn the video off and go on about your day, but keep watching because I want to show you why we shouldn't multitask and what we can do instead. So you might think that you can. I definitely thought I could as a single mom, helicopter pilot, all that jazz. We can't. Our thinking brain cannot be in more than one place at a time, and I'm going to prove it to you. Get yourself a pen and a piece of paper, and we're going to run through a little exercise now. So what I want you to do is I want you to write, where is my focus, on 2 lines like I'm doing, just like that. There, easy. Okay, so that's pretty straightforward, not much to discuss there. But we're going to do it again, but this time we're going to switch from the top line to the bottom line every time we write a letter. So, W. Okay, right. So, that's my effort there. Okay, what did you notice that was different about the 2 tasks, apart from it seems a bit odd? Probably some of you found that it took longer. Maybe your writing was a different standard, more spaced out. So this is basically what is happening when we are trying to multitask. So when we try to do more than one thing at once, the brain tries to do, first of all, it will try to sort of delegate one of the tasks to the kind of automatic part of the brain, this bit where the survival part of the brain is. And so if that's a benign task, which is fairly automatic, that's fine. We can do that. That's why we can walk and talk. And that's why walking meetings are a great idea. 4 marks if you do those. But when it's a task that requires our thinking brain, we have to switch between the 2. Rather like when you're trying to listen into 2 conversations at once, you have to tune in to each conversation, which is why it's difficult to eavesdrop, which is rather irritating, isn't it? So when we're doing that, the brain is task switching, and that's what we're doing most of the time when we're multitasking. 2 things have to happen. The first thing is the brain has to do goal switching. So I'm preparing a presentation and an email pops up. Your brain goes, I am now switching from presentation to email. It also has to do rule activation. So the rules for preparing a presentation is white background and blue writing. The rules for reading an email is I read from left to right. Now these are background tasks. You don't even really know you're doing it because your brain is, so fabulous. But it has a penalty, and even though it can switch very quickly, it amounts to 2 hours every day, studies have shown, that we lose because we are multitasking. And our output standard goes down by 40% because we are draining cognitive capacity whilst we're doing this, which you may have seen from the standard of your writing, for example. So not only has it taken us longer to do it, it's also not as good a product. So if you're sending off your presentation, it's got typos in it, for example. Also, because the brain is kind of switching between multiple stimuli, the brain detects that as a threatening environment. So it activates the fight or flight response, which is the stress response. And that's why we feel stressed when we multitask. And because we've done that, it isolates this part of the brain, which is the rational cortex, the cognitive part of the brain, and it prioritizes information from the survival part of the brain. And up here, this is where all the great stuff like emotion regulation happens. That's why we, might snap at someone or burst into tears or hide in the loo when we're feeling stressed. No judgment, I've done all of those things. It's also where our long-term memory is. So that's why we can't think of, the word, when we are feeling stressed or multitasking. It's also where our problem solving happens. So we can't think outside the box and we become quite sort of, thinking quite basically about things. The final thing is it reduces our ability to prioritize effectively. So when we're in fight or flight mode, we see everything as urgent. And by the way, everyone else who's multitasking around you is doing the same thing. So they think what they're doing is more important than what you're doing. So it means that we're likely to prioritize the thing that appears most urgent as opposed to most important. So we could end up spending all of our time on the wrong task, which is just creating this vicious cycle of doom. So basically, multitasking is a terrible idea. So we need to train ourselves to do one thing at a time. And I say train, that's important because, as I said, I learnt this when I was flying my helicopter, and I remember we had this mantra of no matter what else was going on, no matter how many bullets were flying around, or if we just hit wires, for example, we always prioritised flying the aircraft. Make sure the aircraft is upright and not about to hit a hill or something. That is the most important thing, and that was always our top priority, and we would focus on that one thing. And then when we were happy that we got everything in order, then we could think about where am I, or what radio call do I need to do. But we were trained to unitask, which is the opposite of multitasking, and it is exactly what it sounds like. You just focus on one thing at a time rather than switching rapidly between the two. So there's two really important points that I would like you to take away. Number one is if you want to increase your performance by 40% and save yourself 2 hours each day and feel less stress, you just have to do one thing at a time. That's the first point. The second point is you need to train your brain to do this. I spent years and years and years in the RAF being trained to focus on one thing, even under pressure. So it takes training. And the reality is most of us have been multitasking all our life. So although it's an unhelpful behaviour for all of these reasons, it's a familiar one, which means your brain's going to want to keep doing it and it's going to resist changing. So you need to commit to training your brain to do it differently. So my advice is start here. Write down one thing that you could start today, one thing that you are going to unitask, and just write it down. Make that little commitment to yourself. I am going to start unitasking this. So it might be your top priority for the day in work. You might decide to unitask that one thing. Get rid of all your distractions, close the door, put a do not disturb on, whatever it is you need to do. So choose the thing that you're going to unitask every day. And then you want to practice doing that every day. The benefit of that is you're now training your brain to do things differently, and you're being more effective and producing a better output whilst you're doing it. So it's kind of a win-win. The second thing I want you to do is I want you to write down all of the barriers that are going to get in the way of you unitasking. And I'm sorry to say it, but most of them are probably lies. I'm not judging, I've told myself the same lies, but most of the barriers that we put up are things that we could actually overcome if we really want to. So start thinking about what you can do to create the environment for you to unitask, and recognize that you will resist it and you will find reasons not to do it, and then find reasons that you can overcome those barriers and do one thing, just one thing every day, and practice that unitasking. Other people are probably going to try and unwittingly sabotage this. They're going to distract you. So you're probably going to need to tell them why unitasking is so important. If you want to do that, feel free to share this video with them and let them also discover the joy of unitasking. Let me know how you get on, and if you want to hear anything more about helicopter crashes, then just email me at sarah@sarahfurness.com.